What up? What up? What up? What's going on? Hold on, let me make sure everybody can hear me. Sam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. What up, everyone? Appreciate you guys tuning in already. I see a bunch of regulars and some new folks. Eighth Life, what's going on? G Life Beats, what up? Cloud9, I saw him in here. Let's see, who else do we have? Tiger of Backwood, BeatStars, what's going on? Grantastic Beats, Lemon the Beat. What's going on? It's going to be another dope session. Thank you, Sam, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Let me turn my volume up. Let me turn my volume up. Can everybody in the chat hear us okay? Everything good? No technical difficulties? Want to make sure everybody can hear. We'll get started in just a second. I see we got quite a few folks in here already. But yes, definitely looking forward to this discussion. And it's I probably should have done this a long time ago. Sam, I probably should have had you on the MEC. But met Sam back in the last few years, feel like 1 year. So I don't know if it was 2018 or 17, maybe.
One of those two for sure.
One of those. Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna get started. I want to make sure that there's enough time for any questions that you guys have. If this is your first time joining these sessions, you can ask questions. We normally leave it to the end, and all you do is type your questions in the comments. So no matter what platform you're listening to this or watching this on, if you type in the comments, we should be able to see it. But I'll definitely leave some time in the end for some questions. But today we have Lil Fresh Sam joining us. She is a fashion designer, stylist, business owner. What other titles we got, Sam?
Creative director.
Creative director.
I don't know. Lots of titles.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you. And you are from where?
I am from Denver, Colorado.
Denver. I love Denver. When I was running the label, that's where we had probably our biggest shows, or one of the top cities for our biggest shows. There's definitely a scene that supports independent artists in Denver more so than a lot of other cities I've been to. So I'm a big fan of Denver.
Yeah, a lot of creative people out here. It's amazing to see what people can. It's a small city. It was once a small city, and it's cool to see how resourceful creatives get out here.
Yeah. What is it about Denver that it makes it such a supportive like city for independent artists? Because I know other independent artists that also have a pretty decent market in Denver. What is it about Denver?
I think people would laugh if they heard that, right? Because it's um, it's probably not as supportive as maybe an outsider coming in sees it to be. Um,
Okay.
we commonly get like the whole crab in the bucket mentality stigma from Denver. Like it's weird. It's very competitive. A lot of like competition rather than collaboration. Um, but there is a lot of resources here. I just actually found out even there's like artists out here who help other artists and they're lawyers. There's like a lot of resources out here for artists, a lot of grants. If you've ever been to the Rhino District, you see art everywhere. It's kind of like the arts district in downtown LA. So there are a lot of artists. And I think that makes it great because then there's a lot of resources, a lot of people hiring them. But as far as collaborating and working together, that's where I want to see Denver come together a lot more.
Right. So I think maybe it's two separate things. I think every city has kind of this infighting to a certain extent, the crabs in the bucket mentality. But I do know that a lot of independent artists, at least from the outside, going to Denver, have a decent following there. And I think there's probably a number of reasons why that's a good market for a lot of independent artists. And I just think the infrastructure is there. You guys have a decent amount of venues. You guys have promoters that have been on the ground hustling and bustling and getting people out to shows. So I think that's part of the success, I think. So, but it's unfortunate that people within Denver don't see it as much of an opportunity as like maybe some artists like from the outside going there.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point. A lot of artists come, from other states come to Denver and do really well because they see the opportunity rather than, being from a city, you're kind of blinded by the things within the city.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I definitely understand your perspective. Well, let's talk about you. Let's talk about how you got started. Where did this passion for fashion start? How long ago, and like what were kind of the initial things that you did to start getting into it?
So I guess it started at a super young age. I've always been obsessed with design and seeing things that I could do to create things better. I remember starting my brand. I came up with a name in eighth grade um, in the computer lab, and so I've been working towards starting my own brand since eighth grade. And then coming from a small city, especially like when I started, which was 12 years ago, in Denver, there was a lot of like there wasn't a lot of resources. I remember being so rebellious of the resources I did have because it was like so common out here to just screen print your logo on t-shirts and like call it a brand. So I really dove in and tried to figure out different ways to create what I envisioned in my head. And I started with dropping out of college. My parents, really encouraged me to get an education. I would have been the first in my family to graduate or go to college, actually. And so I kind of entered in it wanting to make them proud, not because I wanted it. There was no fashion schools in Colorado at the time, so I went with what I had, and then I realized I didn't need it, and that I would rather than invest, or it's not even an investment, but rather than spend like tons of thousands of dollars in a career or education that I didn't even care for, why not spend that same time and energy in my business? So 19, I dropped out of college, and I started my brand the next day. I didn't know what I was doing. I always shout out Google and YouTube because those were my two best friends. Those are really what really helped me start my brand. Other than just a small belief in myself and a huge passion. Those were the tools I used to navigate the last 10 years of almost impossible situations. And a lot of as an entrepreneur, you're familiar. It's like being an entrepreneur is one thing, and then being a designer is another. And there's so many segments within owning and running a business, and learning law and learning contracts and learning how to be your own graphic designer, different things like that. So a lot of trial and error, but I would say the biggest ingredient to this recipe of what I've created so far is passion, and that started from a young age.
For
Oh
sure.
my God, I don't know where it came from.
For sure. So you have your own brand, but then you also work with artists, right? So how do you separate the time from, working on your own brand, developing those pieces, and then also kind of working with artists to either style them, develop merch lines, things like that? How do you segment that?
So separate businesses, and I have a really great calendar and time management skills. So when I'm designing for Infatue, that's Infatue, and sometimes they intertwine. Like sometimes I may dress someone in my brand just because that's like the inspiration behind the vision. Um, but then when I'm styling people, so it's separate careers, separate things. I learned early on, like probably 5 years in my design career, that wardrobe styling was actually a career option as well. From Denver, that isn't a thing, I remember like early on, like 2014, I had a couple people like rappers out here ask me to like dress them. And I just thought it was like, okay, cool. Like I know how to dress myself. Cool. People, were like, hey, can you dress me? And it just turned into a ripple effect. I had even like the state representative of Colorado ask me to dress her for, some kind of special press release or something. And it just took off from there. And I went to LA and found out that it was actually a career. I went to school of style, and I learned um, how to do it from industry like legends who had been doing it for decades and with the most popular people. And so that was, a career in itself. And so I've been styling artists, politicians, moms. I love styling anybody. My biggest thing within styling someone is making them feel their greatest and see their full potential. Because you know how when you wear your best outfit, you see some kind of light that you don't normally get to see within a human. on the day to day. And I love bringing that out in people. So when I'm wardrobe styling, that's my goal. And I work with all types of people. Right now, we're working with different artists to create their, statement look. And that's really important. I know you want to talk more about that.
Yeah.
Just styles.
Yeah, let's talk about, because this is the first time we've had a stylist on this platform, and I don't think it's something that is used, at least early on in a career of people watching this show. But I think we're always trying to tell our story, right? And that we're always emphasizing the importance of telling your story, and your story needs to be told through every channel that you have, right? Obviously through your music, through your videos, through your merch, through your interviews, everything down to the way that you look. So there's an opportunity here to have that consistent messaging and story through how you look, right? So when you first work with an artist, what is that conversation like? What kind of steps do you go through to find that statement look that so they can continue telling their story through how they're through how they look?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I start off with like a questionnaire, and some of the questions I ask people. The biggest thing for me is not to make someone another person than they already are. Like I never want my looks to reflect them differently. I want them to be true to who they are. So I really get to know the person. What do they already current like? What do they don't? What aren't they liking? What are they having troubles with? Um, it's really important to identify certain elements to your image that you're going to wear consistently. Statement pieces, people, for example, I always use like the red gloves or the red jacket for Michael Jackson. Like everybody knew that was Michael Jackson when he wore that jacket. Even, I mean, his hair, and he had other attributes that were recognizable. But we want to create a look that you can go out in public, you could go anywhere, and somebody, may know you based off your look, but also just intrigued by your look. And it reflects who you are. A lot of people are very creative. We're talking about music artists, and they're very creative. They may lack, the creative look. And so we just need to get that to match their music and who they are as a person. And that's where I start.
Right. Because I know that some with many artists, it's probably not even a thought, or maybe they don't even like fashion, or and don't get me wrong, like some people's brand image is kind of just like the regular guy look. But how can you potentially play that up so that people become to recognize as that as part of your brand? Are there a lot of artists that you work with that have never thought about styling themselves, or don't care about fashion? Like, what do you say to those people, what the opportunity could be, if they played it up a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's a big deal. Like you can see the difference from, look at Drake in 2010. Look at Drake now. It's just real refined. It's another way to express yourself. And so it's funny. A lot of artists come to me with, and no disrespect, but like no style, and that's not their forte. So that's okay. And I always make them feel, okay about not knowing everything, right? Like you do what you do, and I do what I do, and that's how we work together. Um, but yeah, we start at ground zero most times. I love when I work with an artist who already has a vision of what they, see themselves are as, or they have a direction, colors palette, just any kind of leeway. It's awesome when I work with someone who's like that, but also I love working with someone and starting at ground zero. Um, so it really it's a different process, but they're both fun and very unique. Like I said, we get to pull the best self out of these artists, and just make them feel even greater, and it's cool to see them on stage when they're feeling their best versus the opposite, when they just put on whatever they wear. So I've seen the big difference, and we see it all the time. I mean, you probably know statistics better than I do, but I think last time I checked, 75% of an artist's success rate is based off their image, and their image is based off their style and what you see when you first meet them within like 3 seconds. So that's the importance of style and what you look like.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's it's a money issue. Like people don't have the money to buy all these different clothes, or sometimes it's a time concern. I know that I recently took my engagement photos, and I haven't like shopped in hella long. Like, cause I normally just wear sweats, so and a t-shirt. I can do it, but I know that a lot of times artists it's more about just the time, because it just takes a lot of time to find the right things and then to go shopping. It's just do you work with a lot of artists where that is like the main, I'm sure as they become more successful, like that's the main reason that they would, or one of the main reasons that they would work, just the time, they don't have time to gather or style themselves.
Yeah, and that's the biggest reason why I have a job, because it's not fun, it's not always fun. It's not even it's funny, somebody asked me to go to the mall the other day, like, for fun, and I was like, "I, like, don't even wanna go to the mall for fun. It's not fun to me anymore, it's a job," and, um, yeah, I've kinda got it down to a formula. Once I know what I'm looking for, I can go in any mall and just, like, go right through and, you know, it's kinda like, I have, like, these glasses on and it's like I'm, like, laser focused. That's me in the mall when I'm shopping for someone. And someone who's not as, who isn't a wardrobe stylist may be in there for, like, hours and hours, and it's frustrating, it's not the best. Plus, I am there to whether it's I bring you the clothes on set or we go shopping and kind of get a feel for what works. I'm there to tell you, feedback and color tones on skin and fits on the body, and like it's super important to have someone there to give you the real truth. And by the way, I loved that jacket on your guys' engagement photos. Like that
Oh,
jacket was a great jacket for your complexion, and it just looked really good. So you did a great job.
thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. So obviously BeatStars, we have a lot of producers watching this. I always think that producers don't really, there's a huge opportunities for producers to brand themselves, because most producers don't, right? And not to say that you have to, but because a lot of producers are just making great music, connecting with people, doing their thing. But I think there is an opportunity to brand themselves, to get their name out there a little more. Have you worked with any producers? Do you see any opportunities here, like with producers
Yeah,
specifically?
absolutely. I met Kato, with you, Kato, the producer, and I
Hmm.
just love how he brands himself. I see. I have worked with a couple producers here in Denver and in Los Angeles, and it's no different than an artist. Nowadays, like every part of the puzzle is an opportunity to be someone. I guess if you want to, and so it's like producers are just important as artists, and the image is no different. What you look like in the studio is important. Not only just because of how you're gonna look, but also how you feel. It's important when you're in the studio or when you're creating to feel your best, to get the best workout possible. And so, for any producers watching this right now, I would definitely encourage you to care a little bit more about your image. If you're having troubles with finding what's best for you, hit me up for sure. Even to have like a consultation, I think it's really important to get some kind of direction and some feedback. I find a lot of people have simple struggles, and if I can totally help with them just with
Yeah.
conversation.
I'm always kind of, again, not trying to force people to do anything, or I mean, I encourage everybody to get out of their comfort zone when they can, but it's definitely not a requirement. You can have a good career, without ever hiring a stylist, or maybe even worrying about styling yourself or fashion. But there's an opportunity there. Like there's an opportunity that could, help with the rest of your career if if you paid a little bit more attention to what you're communicating to people by how you present yourself.
Absolutely.
Um, so cool. So I definitely want to jump into actually before I do that, I want to, because I know you're a very passionate person. And I know that you've gone to great lengths sometimes to get in front of people, to get your brand in front of people, or to get certain pieces in front of people. Do you have any stories that you can share of like situations where you got an opportunity to work with somebody because you rushed a deadline, or did something out of the ordinary to make that connection happen?
Yeah, a couple actually. So I'll tell you a story about one that just happened at Basel. I was backstage at a party. It was a Swiss Beats party, and so you mentioned coming out of the comfort zone and like doing things that you know would maybe be a little scary, but getting the opportunity. So I'm a pretty shy person. You know, I pretty low key behind the scenes, even though I sometimes have to be in front of the scenes. So I'm a shy person, and I was backstage at this party, and my friend was like, "Yo, is that Timbaland over there?" And I'm like, "I don't know, you know, maybe." He's like, "You should go talk to him." And so I just like, I don't know what came out of me, but I wasn't like under the like normally if I am a little bit more outgoing, maybe I had a drink or two, but I was sober. I was just like on a mission. I was like, okay, cool, this is gonna be it. So I go over to Timbaland. He was kind of not really trying to talk to many people. I saw a couple people go up to him and he was just like, you know, maybe like gave him a high five and like kept it going. So I go up to him and I I asked him a question and he told me to sit down. He was like, have a seat, let's talk. And so we ended up having like a 45-minute conversation, really, really amazing conversation. And, you know, it's awesome what can come out of getting out of your comfort zone and taking a leap and, you know, doing things that you may not want to do. So I'm working on a couple custom pieces for him right now because I did, you know, make that jump and talk to him. Um, and that's happened a lot. And that, you know, same thing with Gunna. You know, everybody was too scared to go up to him, and I just was like, oh, I'm just gonna go up. His security didn't stop me, and he was very receptive and like asked where I got my jacket, and I happened to make it, so he's also on my list. But yeah, just I think not being scared, removing fear, you know, and allowing yourself to just go for it.
What's your first? What do you first say to him when you walk up to him to give him an idea of who you are and kind of what value you potentially bring to the table, or was it just like a friendly discussion, like, "Hey, big fan of your work"? What's that? What's the dialogue like to get him roped into a 45-minute conversation?
Well, it started with me asking like so we were talking about crypto and NFTs, and I had asked if he had been, you know, so I'm just going to be honest and no disrespect, but like I don't really see celebrities as you know, anything other than humans. So I just went up to him as a human. Hey, like, how's it going? You know, I saw that you were into the Board Ape Yacht Club. Like, how's that going for? Like, just asking real life questions. Questions maybe people would normally be a little bit nervous to ask, but just treating him like a human. And so that led to talking a lot about NFTs and the future of the world and why he moved to Miami and doesn't live in Los Angeles anymore, and like just real personable and just telling me things that like you know like we like almost like we were friends. And by the end of it I felt like we were friends, and it was cool just to have like a real conversation. So a lot of it had to do with crypto though, and like his involvement in it, and that's actually what I'm going to be working on is um a couple like a custom two-piece set that incorporates his NFTs that he's proud of most.
Dope. No, I think that's a huge networking gem. I always encourage people to get out of their homes, talk to people face to face, get used to having those conversations. And I think just the more well-rounded of a person you are, say if you know a little bit about sports or a little bit about politics or a little bit about crypto, those conversations typically go well because no matter where the conversation is steered, you can have some input. So if you're used to just kind of staying in your house, not really talking to anybody, you're not going to develop those conversational skills that could lead to some very, good relationships in the future. So I encourage especially young people, get out of the house, talk to people. you know you got to be comfortable in these environments if you want to build some of these relationships. I remember seeing something with Smino, if I'm not correct. Did you get something to Smino?
Yeah, and that's actually a great story. So this is another example, and I'm gonna do this to Justin Bieber tomorrow. So I'll stay tuned. May happen. But Shmino. So a couple years ago, me and my assistant were like just wrapping up the day. It was like 9 p.m. We were at my studio, which was downtown Denver. Shmino happened to be in town. I didn't even know. Really wasn't even too familiar with his music. I think I had known one song, but I really liked his style and his image. And so you know, I had learned this from Hypnotic actually. Shout out Hypnotic. Hypnotic always encouraged me to like DM 10 people a day, just kind of bring in some kind of value, not necessarily asking. And that's something I would recommend. Don't always ask for things from people when you are having a conversation with a celebrity or someone you want to work with. Don't ask, but you know, bring value first. And so Shmino was in Denver. He was like 3 minutes down the street at a venue. And I was like, hey, like before we leave tonight, like let's just DM every person that is with him tonight and see if we can get him a jacket. Like just literally like nonchalant, had no idea it was gonna work. And like 2 minutes later, his the guy that was with him, I don't know if it was his friend or who it was, but he responded and was like, yeah, absolutely. I sent him some photos of the jackets that I currently had. It's like, hey, I'd love to, you know, dress you for the show tonight. They like responded within 2 minutes. They were like, can you get here in 5 minutes? We made it happen. Again, preparation meets opportunity. Ran out the door, had all the stuff ready, you know, and normally, you know, being a girl who's a wardrobe stylist who's supposed to look the part, I wasn't ready. Like I was chilling that day. And so I normally would have let that stop me and be like, oh, I don't want to meet Shmino like this, but I didn't. I just went, made it work. And they actually pushed the show back so that they could get a jacket from us. And it was cool. So I ended up giving him a jacket and he also purchased the jacket. And, you know, just it was amazing. Very cool guy and very cool people that he was with, friends. And yeah, it worked. So, you know, you never know how it's going to work, but as long as you're ready for it to work is the most important part.
Yeah, no, that's another gem, just being ready. But I'm sure that once you DM them, because the first thing I do if somebody DMs me and I get it and I'm looking into this person is I go to their page, right? I go to their page. What does it look like? Who are other people that may follow them? Who do they follow? Things like that. How much, I haven't been on your page recently, but like, how do you treat your Instagram? What's your approach to social networking for your brand?
Social network is purely like a resume, a website, a go-to, a place for me to get booked. So it's a perfect place for someone to come and see who I am or see my work or my past, you know, experience. And I think that also has a lot to do with why I was able to get in that, you know, backstage that night because I've been doing this for 10 years and, you know, I have the proof and the, to show for it. And so I stay ready basically. Now that I have the work to show what I'm capable of. Even with Timberland, you know, I had the work ready, like, hey, like this is a jacket I did in the past. Um, and so I think that's really important to treat your social media as, you know, a resume and someone who may, you know, somebody you want an opportunity from is going to come and look at this. And so it needs to reflect you in a positive light as a professional.
Sure. And the Timberland piece, you said that's a digital piece. So are you doing more? Are you getting more requests to do like digital fashion design now that we're in these metaverse and crypto spaces?
That's a great question, and I don't have any NDAs, so I can talk about it a little bit. But I am like that's a huge focus of my next 6 months is really um, bridging the gap within my company to digital and physical. Because yeah, so you're going to see a lot more NFTs coming from us, and in the future there won't ever be an Infatue piece without a digital included NFT to authenticate it.
Dope. Super dope. Another recent development of yours, you're about to go on tour. Can we talk about like why you wanted to go on tour, how it happened, just kind of the story behind that?
Yeah, super cool opportunity. So I got a call from the Far Side's manager. The Far Side is a legendary hip hop group. They're celebrating their 30-year anniversary, and they needed a tour flyer for it. And so,
And you already knew them or their manager or no?
no, I didn't know them. They called me and they were like, "Hey, we're going on tour. We need a marketing campaign photo shoot done, and can you style it?" And so I was like, "Okay, yeah, I can style it." You know, didn't really know much about them. Didn't know there's, you know, I just yeah. And I also had 3 days, by the way. And so I accepted the opportunity. I knew I could do it. I looked through, I always kind of like research if I don't know the guys. I just kind of look through their past, you know, images on Google or their social media, wherever I can find photos of their current image and style. And so yeah, I got like three looks ready and got to set, and it was an amazing time. That was my first time meeting them. I found out shortly after I had executed this that they had never had a stylist in their entire career, and I was
Mm.
the first one to style them. And so that's what led to the tour is they were really happy with the outcome, and you know they looked amazing. And I don't think they had ever had worn things like that, so it was really cool to kind of get them a little bit out of their comfort zone, but also um, prove to them that they not need a stylist, but and nobody needs a stylist, but it just adds a lot, to your image. And so they saw the value, and then they invited me on tour to do wardrobe styling and merch. And so like I wasn't able to design their merch because of the timelines, but that is something we're going to be working on in the future as well.
That's super dope. Did they say how they found you to begin with?
Their manager had found me. They were in Denver on a podcast, and I
Mm.
don't know what they were talking about, but somebody referred me as their
Right.
stylist. And
So, I mean, this is just, I mean, we've already had numerous examples just in this conversation where you just never know when or how things happen. So, it's best to, like Sam said, stay ready, but plant as many seeds as you can, have as many quality conversations as you can, put out as much quality content as you can, make sure your social media is on point. You just never know, like, how people are going to come across what you do and offer you an opportunity. And I think you just said that this opportunity came through possibly a referral, like somebody else speaking highly of you.
yeah.
Uh, your reputation is is worth more than gold if it's a good one. So I think there's just so many gems to pull out from your experiences. I want to talk a little bit more about merch. Obviously, that can be a pretty healthy revenue stream for independent artists these days. But if you were to kind of consult like an artist that's relatively green and selling merch, what are some of those initial conversations or initial pointers for thinking about the merch that they potentially will sell to their fans?
Some a couple of pointers would be, really know your audience. We're working together right now with a guy who really like I just am so impressed with how much he knows his audience. But yeah, know your audience, know your demographic, know what they like, know what they don't like. Um, and then also like, you know, it's very common to come out with like merch that has your logo or like pretty standard merch, right? Like with logos. I'd say really try to jump out that and get out your comfort zone, and also let your fans get out of their comfort zone to wear something that maybe they'd want to wear on a Friday night to the club rather than just a t-shirt, that they go to, bed in or whatever, I don't it depends on the person if they like t-shirts. But yeah, I think try to get out of the box and really do some different things. Also really, if this is something I'm encouraging all my clients as we design merch is really think about Web3 and how we can incorporate your merch in that realm too. I love the perks of, the abilities and the utilities that come with NFTs. And so, you can not only purchase this shirt, but now this shirt is your pass to get in every show, 50% off in the future. Like there's so many ways to go about, this in a different way. And I think, get creative and jump outside of the boundaries, and don't just be held back by what you've seen done before, really get innovative. And I think that's a really good key for anyone developing merch right now.
For sure. So can we also talk to, and yes, we are currently working with Sam, but there's an artist that I'm working with named Jack B. So we're actually going through the processes right now of trying to figure out, which pieces to offer to his community. Um, But you explained to me that there's a difference between working with graphic designers and fashion designers. I've probably more so worked with graphic designers over the years just to design different logos and things like that. But working with a fashion designer is different. Can you talk to kind of explain the differences between working with a graphic designer and a fashion designer?
Absolutely. So, there will be similarities and but I think what you can expect from a fashion designer is to know their stuff, right? Like to know the materials, know the best way to guide you on, whether it's cut and sew or blanks, knowing the material, knowing the best way to apply that design, whether it's DTG or screen print or, just knowing your stuff. And then that's one side to it. And then when you're designing, knowing like, knowing about tech packs and knowing about how development is going to go and where tags are going to be placed and do they even have woven tags and um, you know how can we best place this tag and there's just a lot of different, I guess, attention to detail pieces that a graphic designer may not think about when it comes to materials and textiles and fits and placements. And so I think that's a value add that a fashion designer brings to the table. But I do have a graphic designer on my team and I work closely with them, so I think it's a great joint collaboration to really just catch all, touch all bases and create the best merch we can.
For sure. So, you know, uh, as I mentioned earlier, like, artists watching this may not be at a point where they can afford to hire a stylist or to pay a lot for designs. Is there, and I always tell young people that part of networking is becoming a great A&R, right? Like you have to find talent before they grow into being a Lil Fresh Sam. Like there's a lot of younger Lil Fresh Sams maybe in school. I guess that's the question. Where can we find other people that have just as much passion in you, but maybe is the 10 years younger version of you that maybe artists can grow together with, like they do with their producers, like they do with their graphic designers? Like where can they find some
That's a
of these
great
communities?
question. I'm trying to figure out the same thing. Um, I'm trying to hire some interns, but I would say like if you're in LA, FITM is a school in downtown LA. It's a fashion school. Instagram, Fiverr, but I would say Instagram because it's your best case scenario as far as like seeing the work and just like you know what's the best fit for you.
Right.
I'm gonna switch locations real quick. I'm sorry, one moment, okay?
All good. I hope people are hearing. I mean, there was a lot of gems dropped throughout this interview. I hope people are soaking up some nuggets here and there. Whether you are into fashion or not, I think there were a lot of things talked about today that hopefully apply to your journey. So yeah, I'm gonna open it up for questions in a minute. And if people don't know how we do questions on here, I mentioned it earlier, but if you do have a question for Sam, all you need to do is put the question in the comment section. So it doesn't matter if you're on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or Facebook. If you type your question in the comments, we can knock out a few questions before we have to wrap this up. Sam, I never even asked you this, but where did Lil Fresh Sam come from? Like, did somebody call you that, or did you give that to yourself? How did that come about?
So it's really funny story. I actually got somebody called me this in high school, I think 8th grade computer lab, or no, not computer. It was like ninth grade. I was in high school and somebody just like yelled out my name, like, "Hey, Little Fresh Sam." And it really just stuck ever since. People like my whole life people call me Little Sam. I was a basketball player. And
Okay.
and then shortly after, Little Fresh Sam just popped out, and people just rolled with it, and I rolled with it. I've been trying to ditch the little for a long time, but it's just so branded, I can't yet. So we just going with Little Fresh Sam, and then you
Uh,
know, uh, yeah,
I mean, it fits you. You are short, so
right.
I mean,
People are like, "Where did that come
and
from?"
you
I'm like, well, Little Fresh, and then my name's Sam.
I mean, it fits you, so it works. Let's see. We have a question from Tiger Backwood BeatStars. Where is the best, most effective way to contact you or talk?
The best effective way, Instagram, DM me, or
Okay.
also email me too. Email is great. Get right to the, yeah, right to me.
And you have any suggestions on I feel like a lot of these sessions turn into like networking gems. And I'm in the process. I'm in the process of writing an ebook for networking. I know people that have followed me have had known I've been saying that for a minute, but it is coming within, and I'm putting together a course for Zoo Labs on networking. So networking is big for me because I see a lot of young people doing it wrong and really kind of shooting themselves in their foot. So that is why I talk a lot about it, because it's super important. And that stuff is coming. So
That's awesome.
uh cool. Do we have any other questions for Sam? That boy Butter said we prefer vertically challenged. Yes. I'm not the tallest cat either. I guess I'm average. I'm only 5'10", so I definitely don't make fun of shorter people.
Right.
Uh, I would like to be a few inches taller. But hey, you roll with the cards that were dealt.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna wait a little bit more for some questions if you guys have them. I know we covered a lot. Sam, is there anything either from a merch perspective or a performance perspective, for artists, just to kind of know about, their style, or anything that we missed? We covered a lot.
We did. Even if you're on a budget, or you're starting up and you're saving up for, working with a stylist, I would say in the meantime, start with really figuring out what you want to come across as, to other people. We're in a time and age where what we look like matters, and it's not everything, because inside matters. That's everything, but people see us and they're going to judge us within 3 seconds, I think, is now the statistic. And so give them, I think we're able to really craft what people think of us when they see us. So really think about that, and think about what you want people to think about when they see you.
Mhm.
Um, you know, uh, you see a guy in a suit and tie, and you're like, oh, that's a businessman. Okay, well, as a rapper, or a music artist, or an R&B singer, what do you want someone to look at you and think of? And I think that's a really good start for anyone to start thinking about their image and incorporating, different pieces that reflect that.
For sure. The fact that you have your own brand, I mean, you've had your own brand for a minute, but is that maybe not for you, but it could be potential value when reaching out to designers that you want to work with, if you don't necessarily have the budget to support their brand in some capacity, whether it's wearing the pieces would you see value in that if somebody has an audience? Maybe they're not at a point where they can consistently pay for a stylist, but could they support your brand by just promoting it or wearing the pieces? Could that potentially be of value to um, a fashion designer?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on the demographic. Like, you'll see there's like brands that sponsor artists. Fenty Beauty sponsors a lot of different women, right? And before they sponsor those women, they look at their demographic and make sure it aligns with, the brand's demographic. And I think that there's a big value add, for influencer marketing in today's world. I think it's the number one way of marketing today. And so I think it just depends on your demographic and then the brand's demographic. And if they go, together, then yeah, that's a very big value add. So when, like, maybe you don't have the budget to go buy a bunch of clothes, okay, cool. Like, create a little, one sheet why, your favorite brand should send you free stuff.
Hmm. For sure. Cloud9 asked, "What's one piece of advice that was given to you that still goes back to today?" Or what? Yeah, just one piece of advice that still sticks with you today, that you've gotten over the past however many years.
So I'll give you two. One is just always being yourself. I come from a small city where it took me a long time to wear what I really wanted to, because I didn't want to be looked at, or um, I didn't want to get I didn't want the attention of looking weird in a small city. But I always stayed true to who I am, and I think that's one of the greatest, that's one of the reasons I am in where I am today, is because of that. And then the second thing is you know, being from a small city, you're ignored, you know, and you have to prove why people should pay attention to you, why people should like you. And so my one of my favorite quote, I live by this quote, still do, forever will, is be so great they can't ignore you.
Mm, nice. I know my guy DJ had said something like that recently. But yeah, he said uh, I can't remember the exact quote, but he said at some point you're gonna have to deal with me, because he's gonna be there was a quote. I'm totally butchering the quote because there was something in the beginning, but it's essentially the same similar messaging.
Right.
Another question. He says, "Walking my first runway this month in LA. Any advice for a model from a designer?"
Yeah, absolutely. Feel yourself. Like, you know, there's a big difference between cocky and just confidence, right? And so I encourage all the confidence. Some of the greatest advice I got from a art collector, a very wealthy, established art collector. He said, you know, we like our generation lack confidence, but because we were told that it was, you know, kind of maybe cocky, you know, and so we look down upon having confidence. But he said those are the two things, you know, that is one thing that everyone should have a ton of. And I would encourage you as you walk that runway to feel yourself, own it, and just yeah, kill it. You're gonna do great.
Yeah, I would say as a model, you definitely have to have confidence. You can't walk down that runway and look timid or
Be surprised.
do they get another opportunity after that if they are?
Well, I mean, you know, it's kind of like when a rapper gets on stage, they put on this personality or persona, right? And they go and do their job, and then they come off stage, and then they're, you know, whoever they are really as a human. And it's the same thing as a model, you know, go put on that persona. Like if you need to, if you're a shy person, go put on that persona and kill it. And then, you know, you can go back to your shy self. But I do often speak with a lot of models who are very insecure. And I understand why, you know, we live in a time of perfection. And so I get it, but don't worry about that. And, you know, everyone brings something valuable to the table. Like everybody is very uniquely them, and I love that about finding and working with different models.
So, well, Sam, thank you for joining us. I really enjoyed the conversation. I've enjoyed working with you, knowing you. And I wish the best of luck to you on tour. I'm done touring. My touring days are over, but it should be a lot of fun. But obviously wanted you on here because I think there's a lot of untapped potential in diving into this bag if artists do or producers do. Like it's another way to tell your story, it's another way to capture attention, and at the end of the day, like that's what everybody's trying to do, is cut through the clutter, right? So if some people can use the fashion and style element to tell your story but to also capture attention when a lot of other people aren't doing that, it kind of serves as an advantage for people that do understand and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Anything how can people find, I mean, it's at Lil Fresh Sam everywhere, right? On social?
Yep. And then littlefreshsam.me is my website. You can check out my work, hire me to design your next photo shoot or style your next show.
Dope. Sounds good. Reach out to Lil Fresh Sam on Instagram. And you have a website too?
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
the website?
littlefreshsam.me. And then my brand is Infatue, Infatue, and then clothing.com. We're Infatue all across the board, social media wise. And then reach out if there's anything I can do to help you guys. I'm here to help as well.
Dope. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate everybody that tuned in today. There'll be another session on Thursday with Payne. Next Monday, I got a cancellation. So I got to find another guest to put in that spot. But I guarantee you it'll be another quality conversation. Sam, thanks again. I will be in touch. I'm sure we'll be speaking soon.
Absolutely.
Have a good week.
I
All right,
appreciate
y'all. Kill it this week. Stack your wins. And I'll see y'all next week. Peace.